come up so you can see up here a little more, because I'm gonna be writing on that whiteboard today. Hello, hello, my friends. Awesome. We are gonna go ahead and pin. We've got some people online, but I love teaching this on, awesome. We've got a couple people that are virtual, and so they will watch that way, and then we get a lot of individuals that are watching the recording. So let me make sure, perfect, we are recording. Let me just cross check and make sure it's pinned on the right one. Awesome. Well, this is one of, this is actually one of my favorite topics and favorite classes to teach. We are going to be going through quite a bit today, and I went and I pinned speaker mode. Let me actually do this. We don't necessarily, we're not going to need this part of it. Okay, yes, that way we can work on the screen. Let me make sure the screen is on here. We're not going to be using too much of the computer today, but we are going to be using the whiteboarding. Awesome. So for me, what I really like to go over and what I want to have a little bit of clarity around what this class is and what this class is not. For those of you, whether you're watching from home, watching from here in the office, or you are watching the recording, I will note, I'm sorry, I don't know how I have the camera set up, but it's a little bit tilted on the screen today. Hopefully you are able to follow along. What we're going to be talking about today is a database versus Databank, right? One of the things that's really important about the business of real estate is that we're able to create a system that allows us to have repeat, replicatable, and scalable and predictable business. A lot of times when we talk about different types of lead generation is great because it's going to allow us to kind of feed the funnel of business. And yet what we know tends to happen is we're out there lead generating, whether we're doing open houses and we have our open house book of leads, all of a sudden they're not on any sort of follow-up campaign. We have no communication with these individuals for months. And all of a sudden we're going back into an open house book, starting to call through the leads and finding out that guess what, they already went and bought with somebody else. Or worse, if they were a homeowner that potentially had a home to sell, they're listed with somebody else. That's definitely one of the biggest challenges that we tend to face in real estate is where is the predictable repeat business. So there's a couple concepts that are going to be really important for us to understand in the business of real estate so that we can create that repeat and scalable business. Some of you have heard me talk about this before, but this is where we really start to understand what is the life cycle of a transaction and what is the life cycle of a lead. So I always like to start on here before we get into the meat of the activities and how we really gear this on. The first is going to be when we talk about life cycle of a transaction. So somebody enters our world over here, and way over here is going to be the point that they actually do business and we get paid, right? They enter at all different points, and this is phase one of the transaction, which is lead generation. Now, we know that regardless of where they're entering our world, this could be one of the ones that I mentioned already, open houses. What are some other ways that we do lead generation? Any that you're currently focused on? Yeah. Referrals, great, referrals. We're gonna dig into this one a lot. Perfect. Referrals, we have door knocking, FSBOs, expireds, social media, there's so many different types, right? I could write out a million different forms of lead generation here. And the thing that we know is every form of lead generation works, right? Every form of lead generation works. We can find leads in any type of business that we may pursue. Now, the difference is they enter our world at different levels of how close they are to the actual real estate transaction. And for a long time in real estate, agents were taught to value a lead on how close they were to this decision-making point. But the truth of the matter is that in reality, there is no bad lead, there's only bad follow-up, which is phase 2 of a transaction. And we get to this 7 to 10 week period before we actually move forward to a sale, which is contract to close. Point of contract to the actual closing of the transaction. This is the life cycle of a real estate transaction. In reality, y'all know this is the life cycle of almost any type of business that's out there. I don't care if it's retail, I don't care if it's, it doesn't matter what type of business it is. There's something they're doing to generate leads. There's something they're doing to follow up with a client. Let's take Amazon. Amazon is generating leads through marketing, promotion, etc. online. Their follow-up is going to be the emails that they send out regularly, the special promotions that they run, the text messages that they run, their branding being all over the place. They're consistently, right, touching us so that they have that mind share. And then the moment we actually make a sale and click the buy button is contract to close, right? So it doesn't matter what industry this is going to be the same across the board, 3 phases of a transaction. The only thing that changes is how we generate leads, what our methods of follow-up are, and obviously our contract to close process is a little bit longer and a little bit different, right? With that being said, so if this is our life cycle of a transaction, the other thing we really need to understand in the business of real estate is going to be the life cycle of a lead. Or I like to say life cycle of a client, right? Because it's a difference between when we get a lead versus when they've turned into a lifetime client. So if this is the point that we actually make money and close the transaction, that's going to be right over here, right? That's going to be the point right at the top of the funnel. Now, this is all the different types of lead generation, right? And right over here is this 7 to 10 week period when they make the decision to say, hey, yes, now I'm going to move forward. This is the point the lead is worth, quote unquote, if we were looking at the monetary side of the business, the most amount of money in this particular real estate cycle here, right? But the thing that we lack is we look at this and we see the opportunity for one potential transaction. What we don't look at is how do we create repeat, scalable, predictable business by making sure that we have enough people on this particular cycle. Because here's the thing, the day after they buy a home, they come right down here. They're not going to buy a home the day after they bought a home. It is the moment that a lead diminishes in value by 100%. It's going to be right here, the day after. This time frame is literally 1 day. Now, this time frame to this point, right here at the top again, this is a 7 to 10 year period of time on average. Most people in 7 to 10 years are going to do 2 potential things. They're either looking at upgrading, downgrading. It's going to depend on where they're at in their life, right? What I mean by that is somebody bought a condo and now all of a sudden they're 7 to 10 years later, life changes. Maybe they're getting married. Maybe they're moving, different job opportunity. They just want to upsize. Depending on the person, this may be that they hold on to that particular property and buy an additional property, or they leverage that property in order to buy the next property. Meaning now we have a sale and a purchase, 7 to 10 year period, right? 7 to 10 years later, so same cycle, right down here, the day after. 7 to 10 years later, during that life cycle, same thing happens. And this is generally going to be a cycle of every 7 to 10 years, right? Depending on what they're looking at creating. Now that one client that entered our world here gave us that initial paycheck here, they have within them, depending on at what point in their life cycle, we created a relationship with this client, 10, 20, 30 years, right? We're looking at just with that one client, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 potential transactions, right? Over that cycle. Now, for those of us that are looking at this being a career, this is how we exponentially start to increase our book of business by building a business that's based on building relationship with the clients that we bring into our world. There's something we didn't talk about. And you actually said it, Daniel, right at the beginning. It's referrals, right? We also know that if we gave good service to this particular client, if we stayed in communication with them, if we built a relationship value contribution based business, this same client during that 7 to 10 year period can give us referrals, right? Now, if we're doing an assumption, let's say that they only gave us 1 referral a year instead of 2 or 3, because more clients, most people will know an average of 200 people. So they can actually give us a lot more than that, but we're gonna be really conservative here. And let's say we're only looking at that 7 years. Actually, we'll look at 5, right? I'm conservative, 7 to 10 years. They give us a referral every other year. Now we have 5 potential pieces of business from that person in that time frame that's gonna bring them right over here. Here's the thing about referrals. When we start looking at this life cycle of when somebody enters our world, the ones that are actually going to be closer to contract to close are going to be people like FSBOs. For sale by owners have already raised their hand. They said, I want to sell my house. I just don't know if I want to use an agent. And expired is saying, I want to sell my house, or I wanted to sell my house. I had a bad experience. My property didn't sell. More than likely, even though it's probably a pricing issue, I think it's because I had a bad agent, or I didn't get enough exposure, or I didn't get enough marketing, right? And that could be a part of it, and price. Now, door knocking is a little bit lower on the spectrum, right? Why? Because people are not just sitting in their house saying, I really hope a real estate agent knocks on my door today and sells me a house, or helps me sell my house, right? So when we go door knocking, what we're looking for is a transactional piece of business, somebody that raises their hand. We got lucky, that's a luck game, right? It's also a numbers game. You knock on enough doors, you're gonna find somebody that's wanting to potentially move forward. But in reality, our goal when it comes to lead generation is to use every form of lead generation to build a database where we can follow up consistently so that we can convert those different individuals into clients that can now give us referrals, right? Referrals are a little bit different. Generally, when somebody gives us a referral, that person is a lot closer to the point of actually making a decision. So I'll give you an example. We're going into holiday season. Holiday season, things like Thanksgiving. Family members are sitting together having dinner. Somebody starts talking about real estate. They say, you know what, I'm really thinking about potentially buying a property this year. Or I've been considering selling my home. The market's a little bit crazy, right? And it's hot. And I'm thinking that maybe I want to take advantage of it. And your past client or somebody that is in your world where you have enough mind share in their eyes, they know you, they like you, they trust you, they find you credible with one of the most important decisions of their life. They care about this person sitting across the table from them. And they say something like, that's great. Wow, you're thinking about selling your home. Do you know who you're going to use? Or why don't I connect you with my realtor? They're great. They always send the information. They always know what's going on in the world. They always have an idea of what's happening, right? And now all of a sudden we get a referral that is way closer to decision-making point. That is a warm lead. So it's not going to be as cold, and it is just a better lead overall, right? Now we're closer to this point. Now that particular person we want to get into our database. That is the power of having a really powerful database or data bank. Now, here's the thing, when it comes to follow-up, there is a systematic way that we do follow-up that allows us to create replicatable results. This is where I told you it's not a technology class, but we are going to talk a little bit about technology. And I will, for those of you that are on Zoom, I will drop that PDF back in. We're not going over it just yet, but I will drop that in a couple minutes. Looks like I heard that. That was not here. Okay, awesome. Okay, so when we really talk about follow-up, what we look at and what the Millionaire Real Estate Agent teaches is going to be this follow-up. I'm actually going to write it over here so we have more room. So I will move the camera a little bit here as well so you guys can see the rest of the whiteboard. Yeah, that's a little too much. Sorry, guys. Okay, there we go. Awesome. So right over here, we have what's called a 36 touch. 4 quarterly calls. 12 to 26. This is going to be mixed emails, texts, postcards. I'm going to get into this a little bit more, or social media touches. Then we have 4 items of value. 2 client events. I know my writing is a little bit crazy here. Now, a couple things that are going to be really important on this, and I'm actually going to share out an example of a particular plan or a way to look at this. When we look at 4 quarterly calls, there are 2 ways that we really look at doing this. Welcome, my friend. When we're looking at the 4 quarterly calls, I'm going to get really clear on this, and I'm actually going to give an example that an agent shared with me this week that I was super excited to hear, because we talk about the power of database, and I love sharing great testimonials on the power of utilizing tools like this. 4 quarterly calls. I know that sounds crazy, guys. So crazy, right? We don't talk to our people. What ends up happening in this business a lot of the time is when we are left to our own devices and we don't have a system that we are working consistently, when we sit down to make our phone calls, this is what happens. We're like, who should I call today? And we think, oh, I'm going to call my low-hanging fruit. I'm only going to call my leads. I'm only going to call the people that raised their hand and said, yes, I'm interested in potentially buying or selling. And that's great. We want to follow up with those people. We want to have conversations with those individuals. That is part of follow-up. Yes, right? That's part of our lead generation. Or we say, hey, you know what? I got this list of FISBOs. I'm going to call these FISBOs. I'm going to call these notice of defaults. I'm going to call these expires. Whatever that part of our lead generation strategy is, what we forget to do is call everybody else. We don't call our friends, our family. We don't call our network, the people we used to work with, the people that we went to school with. We forget about all of those individuals and we hope that they'll call us when they're ready, but we don't build that relationship with them. And yet all of those individuals have the power to give us what? Starts with an R. Referrals, exactly, right? We're name of the game. We're talking all about referrals today. They have the power to give us referrals. I'm going to give you an example. I had a client who never bought with me. She never sold with me. She didn't do anything. She was a friend of mine. She bought a property almost 10 years before I was even in the business. She bought it short sale and she bought it at auction, right? She never really worked with a realtor. She has this beautiful property that is out overlooking the hills. She's not moving from it. It was a property she was able to grow into for her family. So it was a large property on the hills in a phenomenal location that has gone up insanely in value. She's not selling. She got it at a great value back in like 2009, right? Amazing. So why, if I know she's not buying with me, she's not selling, she's not looking at anything, and yet I still spoke with her regularly. That person became somebody that I would consider a VIP. She sent me my first 3 clients. Okay, she sent me my first 3 clients. Why? Because I had created the credibility with her. She knew me, liked me, trusted me with what could be one of the biggest financial decisions in her life, but in the lives of her friends and family. And I was easy to reach. And so she sent me clients. She's still here, right? She just never was on the sales side. And if I hadn't followed up with her regularly, if I hadn't stayed in communication, if she wasn't getting my emails, if I didn't call her regularly, then I'm not getting that potential business. I also thought I had a big limiting belief when I got into the business. My dad was a licensed realtor, right? He had been in the business for years. He got into the business in, I think it was like a 10-year or 9-year difference before I got in the business from when my dad had been in the business or gotten into the business. His sister, my aunt, also a licensed realtor. My uncle, also a licensed realtor. Now I have 4 cousins that are also licensed realtors, all with Keller Williams now, right? But I had a very limiting belief that none of my family would ever call me or want to work with me because there's all these other people that have been in the business longer, right? Here's the thing, I get a lot of calls now, right? From family, friends included, even knowing that because I'm consistent. Right? We stay consistent because I don't just talk about real estate when I'm seeing family and friends, because I'm asking them how they're doing. I'm asking how things are going in their life. I'm using the Ford model, family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. I'm building a real relationship. And so when the topic of real estate comes up, yes, I'm more than happy to discuss it. They see my posts, they see what's out there. I'm consistent with representing that, yes, I'm in real estate without necessarily having to have that be the leading conversation when I'm talking with family and friends. And when we first get in the business, this is one of the biggest gaps that we have in our business, is that we don't call our family, friends, our people that we worked with, the people that we know, because we don't want to come off salesy, right? But 4 quarterly calls is so important. And I don't care. I'm going to tell you guys right now, this is not what everybody teaches, but this is going to be my personal opinion on it, because I remember how I felt when I got into the business. My first call, I didn't talk about real estate. I didn't talk about real estate, right? I called and I said, hey, I know it's been a while since we've talked. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, we are in the season that is the perfect time. If you've lost contact with anybody in your database, with any of your family, friends, network, etc., this is the time to do it, because we're going into holiday season. So what happens in holiday season, people are a little bit more nostalgic, a little bit more emotional, that the marketing in the world is going to help you right now, because the marketing in the world right now is talking about family, friends, networking, being collective. All of a sudden, we're going to start hearing Christmas music everywhere. People are just in that mood, in that environment. So right now is the perfect time to get reconnected with everybody, right? With that being said, the way that I close is I'm like, hey, I know it's been a while since we talked. Just wanted to check in, see how you're doing, see how the family's doing, et cetera, right? I'm getting I'm noting them in my database. Family, right? F, family. Occupation, how's work going? Right? How has that been? Recreation, any plans for the holidays? It's a good one, right? We're coming up to the holiday. It doesn't have to be the same question every time. Any plans for the holidays? And then the D is for dreams. Right now, an easy question for that is, I know things have been crazy with COVID. Is there anything, once things feel like they're back to normal, that you're kind of planning for? Now, if you do feel comfortable going into the real estate question, this may be a point where you say, just out of curiosity, what are your real estate plans, or have they changed for 2021? Or what are your real estate plans for 2022? Right? This is just out of curiosity, right? Now, here's the thing. The majority of people are going to ask you, and they're going to say, oh, what about you? How have you been? And if you're going full-fledged and you feel comfortable asking for the business at that point. So I'm gonna take the pressure off of having to ask for the business in this call, right? I'm gonna take the pressure off. So if you feel comfortable with it, then great. That's the perfect point to start asking that question. Actually, just really focus on my real estate business right now. The market's been crazy. If there's any real estate questions that you have, I'd love to be a resource for you. If you're like, I'm not making that call, hands down, it's just not gonna happen. I'm not ready. I'm not feeling like I'm there yet. I would much rather that you reconnect with the people in your database and actually call them in the first place to reestablish a relationship than getting scared off by having to ask about real estate. Okay, so then that question changes to this. So I'm giving you guys permission. Okay, the question changes to this, and it says, they ask you, well, what about you? How have you been? How are things going for you? What are you doing for work? Yeah, I'm really just focused on my real estate career right now, but that's not the reason that I'm calling. I just wanted to check in and see how you're doing. Right? Here's the thing, we take the pressure off, okay? This is what happens. I know that when it comes to your database, there are people that are in your network that need to do business. They have questions, but here's what happens in the mind of somebody when they hear that. They say something like, they're like, wow, Daniel really just called to check in on me and see how I'm doing. I really appreciate that. That's great. Now guess what, when you call in 90 days again, oh yeah, you can start having a conversation about real estate, but you just started solidifying that relationship. Now, here's what also happens. They're like, wow, really call just to check in and see how I'm doing. I really appreciate that. And I actually do need to sell my house this year. That's the person I want to work with. And they say something like this. Actually, yeah, I really appreciate that. And we are thinking of selling our home. Now you guys know where to take that conversation, right? I'm not going to go into scripts and role play. We have scripts and role play going on 3 times a week. You can go into that conversation. What I want to give you is, if you're starting or resetting your database right now, is I want to take the pressure off of it. And I want to say that for one reason, is that the most powerful form of lead generation that I feel like everybody's always looking for the easy button on every other way we can generate leads, like Facebook leads, we're like, yeah, I want to do Facebook leads because that's the fire button. That's the thing that seems really fun. I did the whole class last week on content creation with social media, right? That seems like it's a lot of fun. So we get excited because those are the buzzwords. I get it. I understand that we have a lot of buzzwords that are out there in terms of how we do our lead generation, and referrals and sphere of influence will always, always, always be your highest return on investment. And I don't know about you guys, but I would much rather do business with a ton of people that I love, that I have great relationships with, that I consider my friends, my family, my network, than digging around to try to find somebody that doesn't want me calling them in the first place. Right? So database, I don't care what everybody's lead generation plan should have multiple arms to it. Database has to be one. Okay. So that's the 4 quarterly calls. Now there's 2 ways to go through this on it. Here's the other thing that happens as we go through our quarterly calls. We do one of 2 things. We start off on our phone. We're like, oh, I'm going to go through my ASA. We start at the top of our phone. We start calling through people. We miss a day and we're like, oh my God, where did I leave off? I'm going to start again. And then we start over. Guess what happens? The people at the end of your phone never get a phone call, right? Because we lose time halfway between. There's 2 ways that we can go through this. I highly recommend do the database too. Do the database too. I didn't print out that handout or include it. I will print it out after this class. I missed it today, but I will get that to you guys today, and then I will post it for those that are on Zoom as well, and make sure that's one of the handouts. What is do the database too? It is it's literally a 1 sheet of paper. It comes from Bold. It's a 13-week way to get through everybody that is in your database. What it does is this, is it divides up by the last name, and it'll say, today, this week, your focus is on calling everybody in your database whose last name starts with A and Z. Last name starts with B and E, right, is gonna be the next week. And then it's like, it just has different things, right? And they have cute little mnemonic devices to like go through it. But the entire goal is they did 2 things with it. They actually mathematically looked at the population and said, this much of the population has names that start with A, last names that start with A, and last names that start with Z. We're gonna put those 2 together because it's gonna help split it up, right? Now, we all know, I give you guys an example, my database has a lot of people whose last name starts with R, because that's my last name. That's a heavy week, right? That's okay. So if you need to split it up at all, you can, but it's a way to systematically get through everybody in your database in a 13-week period of time. This is something to just include in your lead generation. If you have a smaller database, you may find that in 1 week, you only have 10 people to call. That's okay, call them, right? Call them, get them in your database. The second thing you can do, so this is really gonna be dependent. I love the do the database too. I think there's a lot of power in it. Or you can put them on a quarterly call campaign. Or you can use the do the database too to put them on a quarterly call campaign. So if you're somebody that likes to have the piece of paper in front of you, so you can see, okay, today I'm going over D&E, great, right? That's the way to do it. Now, if you're like, I'm gonna do that this first time, and then I actually wanna have everything just be digital and I want command to tell me when, you're gonna do your first call based on do the database too, the list, and then you're gonna put them on a quarterly call campaign starting 90 days from now. And command in 90 days, you're gonna log in every day to see your task, right? And in 90 days, it's gonna remind you to call that person, okay? And it's gonna do that every 90 days for the rest of their life in command, okay? That's the quarterly call campaign. Now getting over to 12 to 26 emails before I hand out this October action plan, 12 to 26 emails. This is gonna be a mix. Every single person in your database, as you add them in, as you get their email, right? And share real estate related information with them, they should be on the monthly neighborhood nurture. Okay, the monthly neighborhood nurture. That means you need their email address and you need their home address. With their home address, what command is gonna do is do this. It's gonna assign them a neighborhood. Neighborhood, not zip code. It's gonna assign them a neighborhood. So if, for example, the address was here, the neighborhood that gets assigned is downtown Downey. That means every month they're gonna get an email from you that has the following. It's gonna have updated statistics on what is selling in their area, what is currently listed, what are the stats on their area. Have home prices gone up? Have home prices gone down? Has days on market gone up? Has days on market gone down? Right? All of those different things that remind them that you are in real estate, right? That's the monthly neighborhood nurture. Now, you can do a bi-weekly neighborhood nurture. The bi-weekly neighborhood nurture means they're gonna get that email every 2 weeks. Here's the thing. If it's your first phone call with them and you went with option 2, I'm not gonna talk about real estate, you're not gonna add them to this until the next 90-day call, right? So I'm gonna just note that that's because we're not digging in for all their information. What I would recommend you get on that initial phone call is their address. Here's why. Christmas is a great time to send a card, right? Or end of year, or whatever holiday it is that you celebrate, whether it's happy holidays that you want to send, whatever that might be, it's the perfect time to send a card to their home, which also hits item of value, right? Item of value, a card. So in that first phone call, you're gonna get their address. We're refreshing database here, right? Now, here's the thing, and this is why I'm gonna say there's a mix. I include emails, text, postcards, social media touches. 12 emails, monthly neighborhood nurture, no matter what. If you're not gonna do any of the other things, then put them on the bi-weekly neighborhood nurture, make sure they're getting at least those 2 emails from you. Here's the other alternates of things that we can mix in. Why did I include postcards? The main reason is this. Command has a special feature in it, and I did this myself, and I will actually show it to you. I'll have to pull it out from my office, but I will show it to you. I had the ability, you have the ability to do what we call real mailer postcards. They're either 4x6, 5x7, or there's like a bigger size as well. You can send them around a geographic area. So let's say, for example, that you just got a listing or you're going to do an open house or whatever it might be. You can send a postcard by address to all the homes that are in that geographic area. Okay. And it's sent out first class mail. The smallest postcard, I think, is 49 cents if it's sent out first class, or you can do standard postage. So it's going to depend on when you're sending it. that postcard, you can actually even change the criteria. So this is really cool in it. This is a little bit more techie stuff. And I told you guys I'm not gonna go into all the tech today, but you can actually also go in there and you can choose things like, I only want to send it to people who have lived in the house for more than 5 years, right? I don't want to send it to anybody that bought a house in the last 2 years. Or I only want to send it to, the houses and not the apartments. You can select all that criteria. Or I only want to send it, let's say it's a bigger property that you're selling or that you sold. I only want to send it to people that, I don't know, have more than 3 bedrooms, right? You can do all of that within a command. But the piece on it that's really important, and I highly recommend anytime you have a listing and anytime you have a closing, I would do that. I would send it out around my closing, and I would send it out twice around my listing, once when it's listed and once when it closes, right? Because I'm solidifying that with the neighborhood that I'm in, especially if I'm gonna call that neighborhood and door knock it. That's how we leverage our closings, right? With that being said, you're also gonna send that postcard to your database, which you can do in command, so long as you have their address selected as their mailing address. I sent out one postcard just to my own house to test it because I wanted to see the quality, right? I don't know about you guys, I look at that stuff. I wanted to see the quality. I wanted to see how it came out. I wanted to see how long it was gonna take to get to my house. And if I could even just send it to one person if I wanted to. And I can, right? We can. It was 79 cents. I'll show it to you guys in a little bit on that. Here's the thing. When we're sending mail to the people that are in our network, the highest return on investment for mail is what we call proof of production postage, right? Proof of production means the highest return you're gonna get from mailers like that is gonna be the, I just closed this property, just sold, just closed, whatever, right? So that postcard is gonna be really powerful to send to everybody that you know, because it does this. Yeah, they're getting your emails. Yeah, you're talking to them every 90 days. Yeah, they're getting these or see you on social media, but this is where all of a sudden they're saying, oh, wow, he just closed this property. Great, right? Oh, wow, she just sold this beautiful property out in this area. And I don't care if the property was sold in LA or Riverside and the clients, the network you're sending to is LA, it doesn't matter. It's that they are getting consistent communication from you that you're selling things, that things are moving, right? So that's the postcard piece. Social media, it's also social media touches. This is where I like that. Now, to go above a step on this would be actually putting your people into list on Facebook, right? And then going in like in an hour a week or something and going into that list and going and commenting on any like life events are gonna be really good, right? Here's the other reason this is important. Even in the 90 days, that's a good reason to make a phone call, right? If somebody just posted that they're announcing, I don't know, marriage, pregnant, something, right? Whatever it might be. Or graduation, right, is another one. All kinds of different things that people like to announce on social media. It's a great time to make a phone call and say, hey, you know what, or send a little video message. Say, hey, you know, I was just thinking about you. I saw your post on social media. Maybe I liked it, maybe I commented on it. And I just want to shoot you a quick message to say congratulations, I'm really happy for you. That's it, nothing real estate, right? This is the thing, it has nothing to do with real estate. We're solidifying and building that relationship. This is different from if I'm calling like a physical expired, etc. Okay, so mixes of these different types of touches. Text messages as well. You can automate certain text messages, things like the birthday campaign in Facebook. I automatically text myself happy birthday, right, this year because I set it up in command to do that. Great, I love the automatic text messages. You can have a plan that literally has automated text messages that say, hey, just wanted to check in and see how you're doing. And that's it, right? But here's the thing is you're touching them regularly. 4 items of value. So technically postcards can be included in that. A holiday card can be included in that. A birthday card can be included in that. Some people like to send the magnets, right? During the holidays, that is an item of value. A postcard, a little mini magazine, whatever. All of these different items of value, promotional, marketing materials, etc. Client events. Don't get overwhelmed by client events. Client events can be a couple different things. Right now, as we get into holiday season, I know some people do pie days. A pie day is a client event, right? Where people are giving out pies. Some people do, as an example, we tend to do a door decorating contest. Last year was a little bit different. We did trunk or treat, right? It was open for the whole community. That's a great thing to invite your database to. It's leveraging somebody else's event, right? Is those pieces are gonna be things that you wanna utilize. Renting out a theater and doing a movie night. But this can also be, I'm doing a Zoom or in-person buyer seminar for first-time home buyers, right? Or a how to sell your home and take advantage of this hot market, right? Whatever that might be, all of those are client events. All of those are gonna include multiple touches via email, postcard, etc. Fair? Questions? Questions? Okay, I'm gonna give you guys a handout. Let me upload it here really quickly. Right, okay. Perfect. Okay, great. Awesome. And I have that here for you guys. So this is another way to look at the 36 touch campaign. This is actually one that's sent by a friend of mine in Garrett. And then I'm gonna grab actually that postcard from now. So you guys can see it. Okay. So when we start looking at the different ways that people do action plans, Garrett is a KW guy colleague of mine, and he runs something called the Perfect 36 Touch campaign. And so what he did is he looked at, okay, if I know that I just need to touch everybody in my database 36 times over the course of the year, what's gonna be the best way for me to do that? And so every single month he looks at what is my plan for the month, right? What is that gonna look like? What he does is in this particular one, he's actually doing a video text message to everybody in his database. So if you've got 100 people, right, then you're dividing that up along the days. So what he does is, and he also does some elements on the real estate piece, right? If with the clients that you're working with, I really like the video text piece of this, okay? Because obviously we're still sending out mailers and things like that to remind them we're in real estate. If this is like one of your initial calls, maybe it's not a video text message, maybe it's a phone call, but I love the model that he does. He sends out a monthly piece of mail, like an actual physical piece of mail, right, that reminds all of his clients that he's in real estate. He sends out a monthly email that reminds all of his clients that he's in real estate. We just talked about a couple of those pieces, right? That all of a sudden now gives me 2 touches within that particular month. He's gonna include a piece of that plan. So you can see that what he sends out as a piece of mail literally doesn't really have much to do with real estate, right? It's a piece of mail that has to do with, what did he say? The month of World Smile Day, right? Is in October 1st. National or the World Smile Day, maybe it's like a national holiday, whatever it may be. October, most people do what? Most people do Halloween or things like that, right? Here's the thing, this is how we stand out. Right, is you do something a little bit different. It literally has almost nothing to do with real estate except for the fact that it reminds them that he's in real estate with a little cover letter, and then at the back it says on the actual piece of the flyer, he says, "From your always smiling real estate agent, because life is good." That's this one right here, guys. Right? It literally says just at the top, "From your always smiling real estate agent, because life is good." So this is a sample. I'm literally giving you guys what he does because I want you to see it. This is so basic. There's no crazy marketing on this. It's nothing that's so insane, right? It's actually something that's just kind of friendly. And it reminds them that he's in real estate. And it sends a cute little cover letter on it as well. Then he sends an email. The email is literally a snapshot of the real estate market. So this looks pretty simple to you guys, right? I mean, so any guess on how many deals this guy does on an annual basis from his database? 50. Just 50 on average, right? He does more than that, but on average, he averages at least 50 every year from a database of about 500. And that's been running for the last few years, right? Now it increases, but his average has not changed, right? 50. And it's pretty simple. He sends out an email, he sends out a mailer, and then he sends a video text message, 15 to 26 seconds. This video is custom to every single person. So it goes something like this. Hey Ned, happy October. I was just thinking about you this morning and I wanted to check in on you. I hope all is well and you're ready to enjoy the fall. If you have a moment, I'd love to hear how everything is going. That's it. That's literally it. That's what he sends out. Simple. Has nothing to do with real estate. But here's the thing. These people are getting real estate emails from him every single month. They're getting some type of real estate piece of mail from him every single month that sometimes doesn't have very much to do with real estate, right? But it reminds them that he's a real estate agent because he includes that little cover letter. And then he's also, so this is this month, right? He rotates, so he does actually do a client event once a quarter as well, right? So he includes that in there. He does it a little bit more, and then he'll send out different things. This month, October, is his video text message month, right? He gets the engagement. People are responding to him, and he gets the deals regularly. It's simple. It's not easy, right? It's simple. It's just implementing the plan, implementing the strategy. That's why I think it's important to understand life cycle of the transaction and then life cycle of the lead, because we make excuses to not implement what is simple, right? Ralph Robles was actually sharing with me about two of the closings that he had this week, actually. One of them, he said he met the guy years ago and he has used the Do the Database to call him every quarter, which then resulted in a transaction, right? Just by making sure that he was doing his quarterly calls and sending out things regularly, right? Now, does it mean that that person did business in the first year? Not necessarily, right? But now that person is doing business now, and it was a high price point property. It's great. It's the consistency. It's time on task over time. This is the one thing that as real estate agents, we absolutely have to master is our database. Every other type of lead generation has to feed into this system. Like every other type of lead generation. I don't care if it's notice of default. I don't care if it's open houses. I don't care if it's FSBOs, expireds, door knocking, geographic farming, social media. If we don't then feed these people into the system, we're not going to get the level of results that the top agents are getting. To know that every year without fail, you have a predictable business that on average, no matter what, produces 50 real estate deals is a very powerful business. Versus saying, hey, you know what, I'm going to try this new thing this year and I don't have this system in place and I'm going to, try this new type of lead generation, but I don't have the system of what I'm feeding into. Now that's where we have the peaks and valleys that happen in real estate. Right? This is why I'm so passionate about database, you guys. Database is my favorite thing in the world, right? And that's why. Questions on any of this, thoughts, challenges? You guys are so quiet today. It's quiet at home too. Just to share with you guys, so this is the postcard that I did. This one's from Command. I will note this was a custom design that I had designed a couple years ago and I just never sent out. They have templates that are in command. I saw one that one of our agents did on a 4x6. This is one of the larger sizes. So this one costs 79 cents. It is glossy on the front. The back is matte, right? So just so you guys know what the postcards look like. This one I think was like the 7x5 or 5x7. This looks like a 5x7 or 5x9. It might be a 5x9, right? This one, I did first class postage so that it could go very quickly. And, oh no, I didn't. I think I did first class. I don't know which one I did, right? I did one of the postage items, but this single postcard to get it sent out was 79 cents. I sent it to my house. I wanted to see it come in. I want to see what the quality was. I think they're pretty thick, which is kind of cool. I want to see what the print quality was. I think they did a pretty good job on it. So I will absolutely use this again. I thought this was an awesome feature. We will do classes specifically on this, but I will talk about it in terms of the overall strategy on leveraging listings or leveraging closings, right? Because I think that that's where we miss a little bit of the opportunity that we have to not just leverage our closing for the neighborhood that's around it, but to leverage it for our database, as a touch for our database. And with the mailer piece of command, it gives us the opportunity to do that. And the quality is excellent, right? I was like, this is awesome. To be able to do that as a piece of mail, I thought that was awesome, right? You can do the same thing with social media. There's ways to do that in command as well. You want to be that crazy person that is the advertisement, like when somebody goes on Amazon and all of a sudden the pair of headphones they looked at, or I went on Apple this week and all I'm getting is Apple advertisements, right? On everything. It's following me around on Facebook. It's following me around on Google. You want to be that realtor that is able to follow around your people all over social media. When you have their email in command, and if that email is the one that's associated with their Facebook account, which Facebook is also scrubbing to find out all the different emails, right? You can be that person for your clients and run ads that are literally targeted to the people that are already in your database so that they are seeing you everywhere. It could be a little stalkerish, right? And at the same time, that is very, very powerful, because here's the thing. Some of the biggest challenges that we have is we have to position ourselves as credible. They're going to see that, yes, if you're posting content about real estate regularly, but the way the algorithm works, it means unless they're engaging with your post, not everybody is going to see everything that you posted, right? That's just the way social media is. It will see some stuff, they won't see everything. But when you pay the social media platform a little bit extra and you feed them a list of emails and say, these are the people I want to target and I want to see my ad, they're like, great, we're going to put you everywhere. And all of a sudden people are seeing you all over social media. And it's fairly simple to do. So we will put a class on the calendar where we go through, it won't be next Friday, because I'll tell you guys what we're doing next Friday. It'll probably be the week after, and I'll go over leveraging closings specifically with some of the tools that are available. We're going to go through what that strategy looks like first, because you guys know, as much as I love the technology, I like to teach the strategy and understanding behind it before we actually go into, okay, now this is what we do, right? Fair? Okay, so next week is going to be a little bit different. Next week, I'm going to be co-hosting this Friday session with Jorge Mesa. We know right now, one of the things that's going to be really big deal, mortgage forbearances, right? The eviction moratorium is going to be ending at the end of the month. The foreclosure moratorium has already ended. We are starting to see an uptick in things like notice of default properties, right? That is a market of the moment. There are individuals whose forbearances maybe they started to expire. So we're starting to see the number of active forbearances wind down as these different plans start to expire. We're going to consistently start to see that over the next couple months. There wasn't anticipated when Gary talked about what is happening in the real estate market. One of the things that he shared was that we are anticipating a fairly significant increase in the amount of inventory that is available by the end of the year. I want you guys to have a hand in that, right? I want you to be capturing some of that inventory. And so part of it is going to be whenever something's happening in the market, we have to start making sure that our message to our clients, the people that are out there, is consistent with what is happening in the market of the moment. And the market of the moment right now is how can we, lead generation is an opportunity to help, right? So how can we best help and support those that are potentially facing an expiration on their mortgage forbearance and are not sure what the next step is? Because some of them will have the ability to modify and some of them will be unable to do so and will not be able to modify and will potentially need to sell. And it's going to be in their best interest to sell as a standard sale versus to be foreclosed on or to do deed in lieu. Because what happens when somebody's foreclosed on, it goes on their record. And now they lose opportunity in the future. And a lot of people don't understand the implications of that. And that's part of our job, is to educate the consumer, right? So that they can make the decision that's going to be best for them. So we are going to go over that in depth this coming Friday. Fair? So it's going to be a lot. The other thing, we have a couple of big classes that are coming up. That is one of them. I also have a gentleman by the name of Fred Said that is going to be coming in. His team is tracking. He is a California-based team. He's actually going to be putting an expansion arm here in our office, and has his first agent that he's brought in on his expansion team, which we're really excited about. His team is tracking to close out 175 units, right, here in California. I believe they had between 3 locations right now. That's a pretty good book of business right here in California through that expansion network. He is going to be talking about database as well, but a little bit different, right? He's going to talk about what he's done with his database and how he utilizes and builds a moat around his database. Because one of the things that he's really seen kind of hitting his database a lot, and so he looked at how do I protect my database and my clients from the other market that is out there, is the iBuyer movement. We know that right now, when it comes to iBuyers, there are quite a few that are out there, right? Zillow Offers being one of them, right? Open Door, all of these, Redfin Now, right? All of these different programs that are out there are iBuyer-based programs that compete with the investors. But here's the difference, is that in an iBuyer-based program, the client can go directly to those websites and put their information in and potentially get an offer on their home. Here's what doesn't happen. The client does not have a realtor whose fiduciary duty it is to protect that client, meaning they don't know all of the options that could be available to them. They don't know, could there be more money that they get on the open market versus selling it online? What they see is convenience, ease of use, etc. Now, we saw prior to the pandemic, we were seeing a little bit less than 10% of transactions going iBuyer. I will never forget, I had somebody, a broker that told me, oh no, we're never gonna lose market share to the iBuyers. That is not true, right? There is absolutely market share that is being captured out there by the iBuyers because clients also, it looks pretty, it looks nice. Part of our job is to really understand what is going on in this market with iBuyers. So again, it's about educating the consumer. Right? It's not to say that they're not going to, on the forbearance side, it's not to say that we're going to educate clients to not go modify their loan. If that's the best option for them, I want them to go modify their loan. And I want the goodwill that that brings me, that I help them make that decision, because I know that I'll get paid in referrals later, right? Because I did the right thing. It's the same thing with iBuyers. I'm not saying that an iBuyer might not be a great decision for somebody. I'm saying that we need to make sure they understand the options, they understand the fees, they understand everything there is to understand about an iBuyer transaction, and protect our database from just being captured by those different networks that are out there. So that's going to be a part of what Fred Said is going over, and how he's really utilized that to build up a solid book of business. I will note what I really loved about his story, and you guys will get a chance to meet him. He's awesome. But what I really love about his story is he's not somebody that's been in the business for, decades and decades. He's followed the model and built up a really solid book of business by following the models and systems of the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. And that's why he's grown his business onto the scale. So I think it's always really important to see how we can kind of model that same success that he's been able to kind of distill down into this class. So it's going to be a solid class. That is on the 29th, and we'll have lunch too. Okay, so that's a Wednesday, that's not on a Friday. So a lot of stuff that's coming up. There's going to be a lot that I want you guys to keep an eye out, because of course we have our regular classes, scripts and role play that was added, with the exception of the 22nd. There's scripts and role play now on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at 9 a.m. That is in person, so it is live. You can also log on via Zoom, and I highly recommend the live experience, right? Because it gets you kind of started for your day. Contracts classes, we're gonna have some in-person watch sessions with the attorney from CAR Legal, because the RPA is gonna be completely new. That's coming out very soon as well. So there's a lot of stuff that's on the calendar. Please keep an eye, because there's some really important things that are out there on the calendar right now, my friends. But yeah, with that, I'm going to log, let me check. Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, awesome, guys. I'm gonna go ahead and log off here.